On behalf of the Los Trompas Creek Council of PTAs, the League of Women Voters of the Diablo Valley, and the American Association of University Women, I want to extend a warm welcome to everyone in attendance in person and those attending via live stream on the City of Walnut Creek's YouTube channel. I would like to welcome our candidates and thank them for making the commitment to run for these important positions and for their participation here this evening. My name is Nick Weinberg-Lynn. I'm a resident of Walnut Creek, where my children and I attended the public schools, and I volunteer as president of the Los Trompas Creek Council of PTAs. That's something all of us share in common. We are each and every one of us volunteers. Our audience, our candidates, the moderator, and event partners alike. And we share this time commitment because we care deeply about this community and the education of our children. Thank you for giving the gift of your time tonight to engage in this meaningful and respectful civil discourse. Your participation matters and your vote matters, as well as your memberships. Memberships in your local PTAs, the League of Women Voters, and the AAUW, which makes this event possible. Thank you for your support, and thank you to the City of Walnut Creek TV and the Walnut Creek Library Foundation for their help with the event. And now I'd like to introduce our moderator, Ann Flynn. Ann is a longtime moderator of the League of Women Voters of Diablo Valley, covering many local races in the county. She is also a past president of Diablo Valley League and served on the Walnut Creek School District Board in the last century. Following league practice for impartiality, Ann neither lives nor votes in this district now. Please join me in welcoming Ann Flynn. Thank you.
Thank you all, and thank you, Nick. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. We are being videotaped by Walnut Creek Television, and it will be broadcast later, certainly on the web, on the League of Women Voters webpage, as well as CCTV. So we hope you can look again for more information. The purpose of this forum is to present to the community the candidates who are running for Acalanes Union High School District Governing Board. This district covers the following communities: Canyon, Lafayette, Moraga, Orinda, and Walnut Creek. And for this race, voters can choose 2 of these 5 candidates. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that does not support or oppose any candidate or political party. The League is here as part of our key mission to educate and inform voters. And for full disclosure, I did used to live here. My kids did go to Las Lomas, but I no longer live or vote here. Candidates have just now drawn numbers to determine the opening order of speaking. On the far right, we'll start on that side, and closing statements will then be in reverse order. So we'll start closing statements on this side and go that way. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question. Volunteer timers will raise a yellow 15-second warning card. Volunteers, please. Okay, very good. Thank you. And a red card will be raised at the stop time. Thank you. Now, personal comments about any opposing candidate are not permitted. Any statements about an opposing candidate must be verifiable in the public record, which would be a vote, a public statement, contributors, contributions. Each candidate may be given the opportunity for 2 one-minute rebuttals during the program as granted by me, your moderator. These potential rebuttals are provided to correct any mis- or disinformation from a prior speaker. A few reminders for our audience. If you have a question for the candidates, please write it on a 3x5 card, and I already have some, and hand it to one of our volunteers. Questions are screened to avoid duplication and conserve time. Therefore, a question may be a combination of like topic questions. Each candidate replies to each question. Since the forum is being recorded, we ask that you please silence your phones now. Out of respect for the hard work that went into providing this forum and to ensure there is no improper use of the forum's content, we ask that you do not film or record today's program. The entire program will be available intact after the program. We also ask that you refrain from cheers or applause for statements in order to preserve the valuable minutes and hearing each candidate's comments. So thank you very much. So we're going to start with candidates' opening statements. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes opening statement, beginning with Sybil Minigini.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sybil Minigini. I'm honored to be here tonight. I've been a resident of Walnut Creek for about 20 years now, and I'm also a school psychologist. I'm running for the Board of Trustees because I believe that every student deserves a safe, empowering, and academically rigorous education. I stand for parental involvement and choice in education, ensuring that families have a voice in their children's educational journey. My professional background has taught me the importance of collaboration with parents, teachers, and students. Also, the importance of teacher tenure and protecting Title IX. I'm dedicated to ensuring that our schools serve all students fairly, while maintaining respect for female spaces and promoting high educational standards. I'm committed to safeguarding parental rights, upholding financial and fiscal responsibility, and advancing policies that foster mental health while also preparing our students for the future. Together, we can build a stronger, more inclusive district that reflects the needs and values of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wendy Riker.
Good evening. My name is Wendy Riker. I've lived in our district for 25 years, and I've always been an avid volunteer as a way to stay connected to my kids and create a sense of community. I'm a single parent to 3 children who've all gone through our district schools, K through 12, to our Camp Lindo graduates, class of 2020 and 2022, and I have a current senior at Camp Lindo. Teachers and administrators were partners with me in my family's educational journey. I currently serve as one of 5 current governing board members in the Acalanes district, having been appointed in a rigorous process 15 months ago. I'm the AUHSD board rep to both LPI and the Special Education Advisory Committee. I'm also the parliamentarian for the Campo Parents Club Executive Board, having served the last 2 years as its president. Both leadership roles have given me deep insight into the program's curriculum and student and family needs at both the site level and the district. I've also been a substitute teacher, which has given me the unique lens of being in the classroom delivering curriculum to our kids. Professionally, I'm a college and career advisor, providing thoughtful guidance to students grades 9 through 12. I help them navigate course selections, think critically about their education and their post-high school pathways. I'm a trusted resource and can speak directly to today's high school student experience. It's my personal desire to see all students and staff have equitable access to a high-quality experience in their time at the district. I hope to continue my work serving our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Peter Catalano.
Hi, my name is Peter Catalano, and I have 90 seconds to try and explain why I'm different than all of us. I think we all pretty much want the same thing. You know, we all want to do good for the kids. We all want to have the schools be a good place. So I have 2 things that I think set me apart. First, I'm an old man, so I've been doing this stuff for 50 years. I was on a school board, I've been on condo boards, I have all sorts of experience that's relevant. I won't list it all. I have a website, petercatalano.site, that has all of my credentials, and I think they're important. The other thing that I think sets me apart is that I'm a lawyer, and I think that's actually a good thing. If you look at the school website, there's hundreds or thousands of pages of regulations and policies, and they have to comply with a very complicated state education law. And lawyers are good at that. I have a colleague on the Rossmore. I'm on the Rossmore board, and the guy's an engineer, and he's really good. And he sort of derides what I do as verbiage. But then when he wants to do something and accomplish something, it all comes down to the verbiage and the words. So the words are important. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Stacy Schweppe.
Hi, my name is Stacy Schweppe. My husband and I have lived in Walnut Creek for more than 30 years. We have 2 children, both graduated from Las Lomas High School. And they're 9 years apart. So I have been a parent and volunteer in our schools for 22 years. I'm very active in PTA. I was president of Las Lomas PTSA, and I currently sit on the Las Trampas Creek Council of PTAs. I have a very strong connection and commitment to our schools. I believe in student well-being, that all students should feel connected, valued, and that they belong at school. I feel strongly that students should be empowered to thrive, both personally and academically. Every student should also feel that they have one or more trusted adult at school that they can form a deep connection with. I sit on the Citizens Oversight Committee for Measures A and G parcel taxes. I'm very familiar with our school budget as well as our state funding models. I worked for Gap Inc. And have a proven track record in corporate finance and budgeting. I'd like you to vote for me to give Walnut Creek a seat at the AUHSD table. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Paul Chopra.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Chopra. First of all, I want to express my gratitude to the Las Trampas Creek, AAUW, and the League of Women Voters, and especially to Amy for putting this together. I'm a parent of 2 teenagers that are currently in our public school. My daughter Parisha is a freshman, and my son Saber is an 8th grader. I'm an accountant. I have over 25 years of experience in corporate finance. I have a very solid foundation in managing complex financial matters. In addition, I'm also a very engaged parent. I have been actively involved in our education community. I've served on the elementary school PTA. I volunteered for the Measure L parcel tax campaign. I serve as a treasurer for our LMY swim team. And currently, I also serve as a treasurer and board member of LPI, Lafayette Partners in Education, our foundation for Lafayette since 2020. And in that capacity, I oversee a budget of $4.5 to $5 million a year that goes to our schools. Additionally, I also serve a number of local school district committees. I currently serve on Lafayette District Budget Advisory Committee, which most recently helped identify $2 million in savings for our district. As a parent and member of the community, I strongly believe that our schools are the backbone of our community, and I want to do everything I can to ensure our schools remain excellent. My priority is to ensure responsible and effective use of public resources. When I say responsible and effective use, I do not mean only through the lens of a financial analysis. The ultimate goal is to bring academic excellence, which requires a multidimensional approach so that all students can be successful.
Thank you, Mr. Chopra. I should mention that on your ballot, on the printed ballot, there is another candidate, Andrew Fontaine, but he has withdrawn his name, his candidacy, but of course it was after the ballots were printed, so he still will be on the printed ballot, but he is no longer a candidate. So these 5 are your candidates. So we'll start with the beginning question, and we'll, Wendy Riker, if you could please answer this first. What specific skills do you bring for the position that you're seeking on the school board?
Well, I currently serve on the school board, so I've had 15 months of really deep training and preparation. I've spent a ton of time at each site level, all 5 district sites. I've spent a lot of time with site administrators, principals, with students, with leadership groups. I have a really deep understanding of all of the different programs and the stakeholders. I've also been a parent for the last 8 consecutive years in our district, which means that covers before, during, and after COVID. Our students have really only been in school full-time for 3 years, which is kind of remarkable, and it's significantly changed. We've had a tremendous...
One second. The microphone issue. A little buzzing in the room.
Thank you, Ms. Victor.
Okay, go for it. Sorry.
Okay.
Please continue.
Yes, no worries. The other thing I forgot to mention is that I was actually employed by the district as a full-time classified staff member as the College and Career Advisor at Acalanes High School from 2019 to 2021. So I do think it's really an excellent ability to be able to speak to the staff experience as well.
Thank you. And I didn't mention before, but the candidates all know you get 1 minute to answer each of these questions, and we'll be going on for approximately 1 hour we get as many questions in as we possibly can. So next, Mr. Chopra, if you'd answer the question.
Absolutely, yes. Again, like I said, I'm a CPA. Throughout my life, I've worked with multiple corporations. I've sat on boards. I've served the boards. And in my capacity as working as the LPI treasurer, I have managed a budget of $4.5 to $5 million. And again, with this ultimate goal of making sure each of the dollars that we raise goes on to support our schools in the most efficient manner. Above that, at our Lafayette School District had a budget advisory committee which I sat on, and as part of that, our team identified over $2 million of saving for the district. And I also understand that, again, you can't just use the financial lens to get to this. We have to use a multidimensional approach, right? Like a curriculum that's engaging and dynamic, innovative teaching methods, and at the end of the day, making sure that all our kids get this sense of security and belongingness.
Thank you. Mr. Catalano?
I think I have great qualifications, education, experience, all that stuff on the website, but I don't think any of that's as important as collegiality and working in a group and listening. And I don't know if you're aware of Getting to Yes. There's a book called Getting to Yes and Getting to Yes Training that basically says you want to look at someone's interest and not what they say they want, but what they need to satisfy their interest. So the idea is that if you're someplace and you can satisfy what they need in another place, that's the way to do it. So having I think that kind of attitude, that kind of thought is much more important than law school and all the other stuff that I've done.
Thank you. Ms. Schweppe?
The skills I bring to this position would be my many years of voluntary service, working on many different PTAs, and also sitting on the council, which oversees our local schools within the attendance area. For Acalanes Union High School District specifically, I've been on the coordinating council. I sit on the Parcel Tax Citizen Oversight Committee. I thrive in collaborative environments. And I think that my depth and range of experience within the school district is invaluable to the board. I'd also very much like to represent the largest school and largest community of Walnut Creek, and hope that you appreciate geographical diversity on the board, because I think it's an important quality.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Minigini?
In terms of specific skills, I will say I come from the trenches in terms of having worked as an educator, a school psychologist. I am knowledgeable about specific programs that are very relevant, specifically things like special education, mental health programs. So these are all things that are very relevant to, I think, to our concerns as a community, and certainly for the Acalanes Union High School board. These are, I'm very much a resource to the board in that regard. And so I think that is what I really bring to the table, is my experience working in schools and my knowledge of the programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, the next question, I've got quite a few versions of this question, so I'll kind of combine them all. Each of you, of course, lives in one of the communities served by one of these schools. So two sides of this. How can you assure voters that even though you have a connection with your neighborhood school, you can represent the entire district? And Do you think it's important for each of the neighborhoods to be represented on the board? So if we could get a little of your thinking about homeschool. So we'll start with Mr. Chopra.
Absolutely. I think at the end of the day, every student should get representation, and that's what I intend to do. I understand that our districts are becoming increasingly diverse from a race perspective, from other perspective, but also 10% of our, even though 10% of our overall population falls under the, English learners and falls under the socioeconomic background perspective, but it is also notable that half of that falls into Los Lomas. Right? So me, I've been a migrant myself. I came to this country 35 years ago. I have lived in the shoe of of what a student from those communities would live through. So I think I can bring my life experience to the table and connect with those students and help them be represented in the most appropriate manner.
Thank you. Mr. Catalano?
I'm not sure of the need for geographical diversity. That's sort of news to me, and I'm not sure that someone on the school board should do something different for Las Lomas than for Miramonte. To me, I don't know. I would be open to it, but as a first blush, I don't see. I disagree. I don't want to refer to Ms. Schwett. With Stacy?
Sure.
That's the first. With Stacy, I don't see the need for geographical diversity. I think we should do the right thing for all the schools, unless there's something different about one of them that's dramatic. But to me, this isn't a big issue.
Thank you. Ms. Minigini?
I think when it comes to having a connection and representing all students in the district, the key here is ensuring that there's an equality of opportunity, of educational opportunity in the schools for all students, and that we are promoting academic achievement. And that is my priority, is promoting academic achievement for all students and ensuring that the schools serve all students fairly. And I also put a priority on protecting women's spaces in the schools. I think that's very much a part of representing all students within the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Schweppe?
I care deeply for our students, and I don't think it matters where they go to school for that care to be expressed. But Las Lomas is the largest campus within the district at over 1,500 students. Our community is a population of over 60,000 people. I think it's important that everyone feel they have access to board members. So if I'm in the grocery store, I'd love for you to come talk to me. And it's easier for my Walnut Creek friends to do that in Walnut Creek. Las Lomas also has the largest percent of socioeconomic disadvantaged students. It has the largest percentage of English language learners. And I think understanding that, it just lends itself to being a way to connect to the whole school district that is a different perspective. The more perspective we have, I think the greater the conversation.
Thank you. And Ms. Riker?
Thank you. I don't disagree with Stacy's thoughts. Walnut Creek is a much larger population, more greater students at that school, and some additional challenges. I live in Lafayette. I've lived there for almost 20 years. I lived in Orinda before that. My children went to the Orinda preschool. My children took advantage of the intra-district transfer that's available to students, and they go to high school in Moraga. So we've kind of covered many of the bases, not all. I will say I've spent time working in the college and career centers at Las Lomas, Acalanes, and Campo Lindo. And once you start working in a leadership role like that, whether it's as a staff member or as a district board member, you really are thinking about all the students in the district, and you really are available to serve everyone. But I do have great respect for Stacy's point of view.
Thank you very much. Okay, I've gotten a number of questions about Title IX, the updated provisions of Title IX are fairly recent, so we would like your thoughts about it. Obviously, Title IX has made a big impact in schools over the years, and students can feel included in their school experience. But it's important, and gender equity, of course, is important. So what are your thoughts about the updated provisions and how we can incorporate them into this school district? So we will start with Mr. Catalano.
I'm not aware of the updated provisions more in general. In Title IX, I think the school district is pretty progressive, and from my experience, I'm a substitute teacher around, and from my experience, I see no Title IX issues at all, and I think the schools are pretty sensitive to it. So I'm open to having a problem resolved with it, but I don't see it from my admittedly limited experience.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Minigini?
For Title IX, in terms of the provisions, updated provisions, and how to incorporate, the key, the spirit behind it is to ensure that we are protecting, we're of course protecting students, but that we are also ensuring that we protect students within, for instance, a sports environment, right? So ensuring, for instance, that, you know, my priority, for instance, is to ensure that, you know, women's spaces and women's sports remain just that and are for biological females. That is something I care strongly about. Title IX is to ensure that we protect students, and of course, we know that students come first, that they're our priority. And so that is the spirit of Title IX and what we should apply for our district as well.
Thank you. Ms. Schweppe?
Title IX's been in place since the 1970s. It has many, many aspects that it covers, from equity across the board through sexual harassment and providing safe spaces for students, teachers, staff. California policy has always been kind of in front of Title IX, and the policies of the district are mostly influenced by the policies of the state of California, which tends to run ahead of the rest of the country. I think that as we look at the 2024 revisions, and they're currently being challenged in court, the board will make the best decision to implement the policies as put forth by the government.
Thank you. Ms. Richter?
Hi, thank you. If any of you had a chance to watch the board meeting last night, we actually had our second Title IX report that was presented to us by Nick Carpenter in our Business Services Office. The district takes Title IX very seriously and is extremely proactive. Recently, the district added girls flag football, which has been incredibly successful and has created more opportunities for girls to come out and play a no-cut sport. Beach volleyball is also another sport that's been added. Title IX is really important because we want all genders to feel that they're having equal opportunities, equal attention, equal publicity is really important. Making sure that it's equitable for both sides. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Chopra?
So Title IX is the law, and as a board member, the board's responsibility is to uphold the law and to make sure all the policies that are put into place comply with the state laws. So in that perspective, I think our board's done an excellent job. As it's been pointed out at yesterday's meeting as well. The board's fully aware of the issues that are coming up, and the board's taking a very proactive approach at it. The district, I mean to say, and the board's supportive of it. So I think we're in a good spot.
Thank you very much. Now, we've gotten a few questions on mental health. They're different, so I'll ask more than one question. So student mental health and well-being is on everyone's mind. What improvements should be made in the district to help students? So we will begin with Ms. Minigini.
That's an important topic, mental health and well-being. I think in terms of improvements, I think we need to reevaluate whether what we currently have in place does in fact serve all students, and also to ensure that we are serving all students fairly. I think frequently what happens is districts tend to focus on a specific group of students to determine whether their markers or standards for mental health are being met, and that is often at the expense of other student groups. I think that the district can improve the equitability of the way it applies the mental health programs and initiatives for well-being.
Thank you. Ms. Schweppe?
I think we're very lucky to be in a district that has wellness centers on every campus. The access to those centers continues to grow year over year as we help as many children as we can. The wellness centers not only encourage students to come in, but they participate in outreach as well. I think there's always room for improvement. We can always find better, stronger solutions, and that working together and keeping mental health top of mind, we can make our district really a beacon for mental health awareness.
Thank you. Mr. Catalano?
The mental health of our kids is way beyond me. I don't know what we should do, and I wouldn't expect the school board to know. I would look, we pay the administration good money to know this stuff, and I would hope that they would propose, I'm sure that they have proposed a plan. I imagine there's extensive policies, and I assume that the school board would rely on experts in the field, you know, MDs, PhDs, people who understand mental health. So in this area and in several of the other areas, I don't think people should look to the school board for basic initiatives. I think the school board needs to evaluate proposals from the experts in the field.
Thank you. Mr. Chopra?
Absolutely. So mental health is probably one of the most important, priority that our district has, and I'm very, I applaud our administration, Dr. John Nickerson, for being on the forefront of that. I don't know if you guys know, but all our schools have wellness centers, and our wellness centers have been in place since 2017, 2018, which was way before other districts. A lot of the districts did it after COVID, but our district took that proactive approach because they learned from the data that was available that the mental health was the most important things to keep student, engaged, healthy and mentally healthy, as well as to perform in an academic environment.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Riker?
Yes, thank you. Mental health is critical. Students can't learn if they are upset, if they are distraught, is a barrier to learning. Thank goodness that we have prioritized wellness centers long before COVID. COVID taught us that it's a real issue. We have wellness centers on campus with full-time staff. We have internship programs. Students can go into our wellness centers for a break when they're feeling stressed out. They can go in there for self-care. We have wellness coordinators that are there to spot substance abuse, and they are trained in suicide prevention. So it is a range of services, and we have been using some of our one-time dollars to pay for those services, and so I think the challenge is to be able to maintain those programs going forward.
Thank you. Also in the mental health arena, preventing school shootings, suicide awareness. So the question is, do students know what to do if a classmate has mentioned suicide, if someone has mentioned violence? Are students aware of what the protocols are? And Does staff have red flags that they look to find out? So it's a student question and a staff question about potential violence. So we'll start with Ms. Schweppe.
Okay, school shootings, top of mind, right? Where do I begin? The school has been proactive in taking on the Sandy Hook Promise, which includes a reporting line for see something, say something. It's important that students feel they have a safe space in which to report another student who is struggling. I think a lot of students struggle with suicide ideation, and we need our wellness centers to really be on the forefront of helping teachers deal with that. I think our wellness centers contribute greatly to awareness for both students and staff, and that we all need to be participants in identifying those students that are struggling.
Thank you. Mr. Catalano?
There are posters in the classrooms, there's an emergency management binder, there are policies on this. I think the school district is on this. I don't think this is a problem.
Thank you. Ms. Riker?
Can you repeat the question in its entirety for me, please?
Okay. As part of mental health, we have a number of questions, but school shooting is one of them. Suicide ideation is another. Do students know what to do if they have a classmate that is exhibiting these behaviors? Does faculty and staff know what to do? Are there, the red flags are apparent? Do people know what is actually going on and what to do about it to prevent a tragedy?
Yeah, I think our district has prioritized making sure that staff and students are well aware of the manner in which they should handle situations. I believe Stacy mentioned say something, anonymous reporting. We have highly skilled counselors, highly skilled administration, highly skilled wellness coordinators. Everyone works together to collaborate to keep on top of students. And I think that they're really well aware of what's going on in the world today, and they're on high alert.
Thank you. Ms. Minigini?
I would say, just based off my reading and my experience within this arena, I would say that there tends to be a general lack of training, and I'm not saying that our board and our schools are a poster child for that, but I would say that in general, there is a lack of training in these areas. Things like preventing shootings and the protocols around that, I would say oftentimes both students and staff are often not necessarily aware of all the protocols. I would say frequently students and staff might be good at spotting, but not, I would say the follow-through is often the weaker part of the protocols. So as a board, I think that would be something important to set as a goal for improvement.
Thank you. And Mr. Chopra?
I believe our district has done an excellent job in implementing, various aspects of safety. Again, there's the system to report. They work closely with the PD, the police department. There's the wellness centers. There's the counselors. They all work collectively. But at the end of the day, I think it's the whole community's responsibility as well. I have 2 kids that are in the system right now, and they will be in the system beyond my term if I do get elected. And I talk to them every day. Like when I drive my daughter and my neighbor's daughter to school, I ask them, hey, what did you notice? Did you observe anything at school today? Like, did you observe anybody got bullied? Or, because I want to hear from the students what's going on at school. And I think as the community, our community is very, very involved. And as the community also gets involved in this with the district, which I think there's a great collaboration, it would be a very positive step forward.
Thank you very much. And now, because this is multiple people ask the same question, I would like you to specifically mention what policies you would support or encourage in order to make sure our schools stay safe from gun violence. So we're going to start with Mr. Catalano.
I don't see the need to do anything more than we're already doing. The district is definitely aware of it, and I don't see the need to do more, and I'm not sure if we could do anything more. I would defer to the administration if they have something that they want to do that the board hasn't allowed, but I'm not aware of that at all.
Thank you. Ms. Schweppe?
So the district has a district-wide safety committee, and each school site is also required to provide a site-specific safety plan. Those plans do engage parent leadership as well as administrative input. I think as a community, as many voices as we can hear, the better. Involving all of our community resources when it comes to talking about safety is important, and to understand also parents' concerns. I think we also need to be thinking sometimes about evacuation plans, how kids get out of some of the schools that have one way in. But I think we're doing a great job and we're on the right track. There's always room for improvement, though.
Thank you. Ms. Minigini?
I would encourage, when we look at policies for supporting and encouraging mental health, specifically within the arena of looking at, the threat or the risk of school shootings, I think it's very important that students of concern or situations students of concern are tracked early on. I'm often an advocate for evaluating students, for instance, who might need additional support. And are not necessarily, coming to the surface as needing immediate support, but I think having many eyes on students is key to that as well, which is why it's great that we have these wellness centers. But I think it really does take a village, as they say, in terms of keeping an eye and making sure that students are tracked early on.
Thank you. Mr. Chopra?
Absolutely. I think, as I said, safety is the utmost responsibility of the district and the board. And I know our district has done an excellent job. We have systems in place. We work closely with our PD. But again, at the end of the day, I think it comes down to the community involvement as well as education, right? Observing the kids, keeping an eye on them, just seeing the signs of where a kid feels that he's not feeling the sense of belongingness because something's triggering. This, again, it takes a village, so we need to stay engaged. We need to continue to work with our administration and continue to provide that mental health support to all our students.
Thank you. And Ms. Riker?
2 years ago, when I first became president of the Campbell and No Parents Club, it was just following the shooting at Uvalde in Texas, and so it was top of mind. So I prioritized that as my very first parent event. I worked with our associate principal, at that time who's now the principal of JM. I worked with gun safety advocates in our area to pull together the chief of police, the captain of the fire department. We held a parent event. We took questions. We discussed evacuation plans. We updated the binder. And so we prioritized that. And it's always going to be something we have to continue to be prepared for.
Thank you very much. Now, changing topics a little bit, what do you think is the greatest challenge in the district regarding special education? And we will start with Ms. Schweppe.
I think one of the challenges we have in the district is just acknowledging that we have a achievement gap, and that within that gap are our students with disabilities. I think the more we call attention to that, the more we can all embrace that it needs to be funded, it needs to be looked at, it needs to be supported. Policies need to be put in place to ensure that students don't fall through the cracks, and that we are offering career and college opportunities to all of our students, not just those that are mainstreamed. I think the district does a good job. We talked at the board meeting last night about special education. There's definitely policies in place, but there's always room to service every child a little bit stronger.
Thank you. Ms. Minigini?
I would say the answer to the greatest challenge regarding special education, I would say it's twofold. The first part is compliance with following individualized education plans, IEPs, is a huge challenge for this district, as it is for many districts. And so that piece needs to be taken care of first, along with also the transition to adult vocational or adult programs, which is often an area of great difficulty. And I know it's also an area of challenge for our district as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chopra?
So out of the 5,500 students that we have in the district, close to 700 students represent the special education program, which is about 13% of the population. And out of our budget, we spend close to $15 million on making sure that they are getting the proper support and they need. Is that enough? I don't know. I mean, we're doing a great job. I think the presentation that was done yesterday showed the progress that all these programs are making. Can we do more? Absolutely. But again, it comes down to the whole question of funding, right? I mean, that's the one thing our district struggles with, because we still get the base funding, which means less than 80% of funding comes from the funding sources, and the rest of it has to be provided by the local community through different means. So again, yes, we could do more, but again, we need to find the ways to do that.
Thank you. Ms. Riker?
Special education has a special place in my heart. I am the board representative for the advisory committee, so I join the meetings with parents of our special education students. And we do have opportunity gaps. We do have growth in that area that can be made. I think in years past, it's a struggle sometimes to find the right staff. It's a really difficult job, and finding the right person who truly loves and is passionate about that work is really important. I also think parents have expressed a desire to be more inclusive in the gen ed community. And I think great changes ahead. We have a brand new leader to that space, Lee Gregory, who brings tremendous compassion, and I think we have great things ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Catalano?
I think the school does a really good job about special ed in the schools. From my prior school board experience, the big issues that I saw there were staffing. I agree with Wendy, staffing was always an issue. And the decision about how to deal with the kids in the school versus sending them to a special school. That was always a problem and a sensitive thing. It's an aspect of mainstreaming. So that issue was a big deal for me, but I don't know how this district does it, but I'm sensitive to that issue.
Thank you. Now, we've mentioned money, so let's talk about the budget. We all know that budgets are tight. Where would you want to allocate funds differently for better student outcomes and to not be spending more than you take in? So we're going to start with Mr. Chopra.
So funding is always our issue, and this is again, our school fundings are not an easy, simple matter. I mean, we got so many funding sources. However, you always have to remember that Acalanes district is one of the lowest funded district in the state. 80% of our funding comes from the state and other sources, but that is not enough to serve our students. So how do we get there? We get the other 20% through parcel tax. We get the other part of that 20% through our ed foundations. So if you ever had doubt about giving money to the ed foundations, think twice, because without your help, that education will not be provided. Even with that, even with the 80-20 that we get, we still are in a deficit, and our deficit is close to 4% of our overall budget.
Thank you. Ms. Riker?
We are one of the lowest funded districts in the state of California. The state of California ranks 33rd in the country in funding to education. So we already start behind the 8 ball. It's really challenging to continue to provide the programming that our kids want and deserve. We've been getting a lot of one-time money. I think I mentioned that earlier with mental health supports. And that money is now going away. So luckily, the board I'm on and the boards before me have operated with conservative budgeting and built a sizable reserve, but that's not a long-term plan. So we either have to hope for increased revenues or discuss cutting programming or go out for a parcel tax. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Catalano?
Yeah, no one wants to cut programming, obviously. So preparing for this, I spent a fair amount of time going through the district policies and reading all the paper from board meetings, and I'm just struck at how the bureaucracy has grown. So my only feeling or my wrinkle is that the difficult bureaucracy that's grown up over the years might need to be pruned a little bit. We do an annual survey of building names, which just struck me as, I assume so we don't offend someone. And it just, there's too many things like that the district does that it shouldn't be doing, and it would make it easier for teachers to teach and students to learn without all the paperwork that the district requires. That's how I would solve. I would do that to try to fix the deficit.
Thank you very much. Ms. Minigini?
When looking at prioritizing funding and how we might look at redesigning that, I think the first step would be to try to do an audit to identify inefficiencies in spending, to ensure that where the money is being focused, is that where we want it to be focused? Are there better areas, more areas where we could be rerouting the funding? And also consider developing some partnerships, for instance, with local businesses, organizations that could help offset some of those operational costs that the district has. And also looking at the possibility of exploring new federal grants. Many grants come up. It's kind of a world of its own, and so staying on top of that and looking at what might be out there, I think will also be a priority for our district when looking at funding.
Thank you. Ms. Schweppe?
Close to 85% of the budget is spent on teacher and salaries across the board. And that doesn't give a lot of opportunity there's not a lot left over after that. And I think it's really important that we invest in our teachers and our staff, that we make sure that we're a district of choice and that teachers want to be here. And that is really the greatest allocation and the greatest use of the monies we get is investing in our teachers and staff.
Thank you very much. Okay, now this is my favorite question so far. I was on a school board for 9 years, and I love this question. Can you please explain to a layperson how school funding works in California? Any ideas would be welcome. So we'll start with Ms. Riker.
Oh, goodness. Well, if I mess up, I see Dr. Nickerson in the room, so he can help us out. And I see Danielle Gallagher, too, who's a professional. Local control funding formula is the formula that's been in place, I think, maybe 12 years. It's a complicated formula that combines property tax dollars and takes into account the demographics of the students of our district. We also combine our funding with the generous donations of our community members. Those ed fund dollars are extremely important to delivering the kind of programs we have. Property taxes are going to come out in November, so we're kind of eagerly waiting to see what that looks like. We also have, there's ongoing money, and then there's one-time dollars. I think I've mentioned that a couple of times, but one-time dollars are grants that can be used for specific things only. And so it's just this incredibly complicated formula.
You're right. Thank you. Mr. Chopra?
So LCFF, which is defined as local control funding formula, it was put into place 10, 11 years ago. Prior to that, we had what we called a categorical funding, which was a different way of funding. It was per categories. But the way the LCFF works is you have base funding, which is per student. So the district gets money per student. Then there's another layer on top of that, which is called the supplemental funding, which is that the district gets additional 20% if they identify a population that's low income, foster youth, and English learners. And then the third layer kicks in, which is called the concentration, which is that if 55% of your population is that 3 buckets, then you get another 60% or so. So with that, because our population of low-income foster youth and English learner is less than 10%, as you can see that our funding, we get the base funding only. And then we have another complication matter where we compare to property taxes, and we get to keep any excess of the base funding. If the property tax is higher, we get to keep that. And even after that, we only get to 80% of our total revenue.
Thank you. Mr. Catalano?
No.
Okay. I'm with you. All right. And Ms. Schweppe?
So we start with a base grant, and as a longtime PTA volunteer, PTA has been advocating for a very long time to raise the base. It's not high enough. We need to support our students at a higher level, and the state needs to make a commitment to funding education, which they frequently use as a hot potato. So join PTA and advocate for raising the base.
Thank you. Ms. Minigini?
As several trustees and candidates here have already mentioned, yes, there are many acronyms in the world of funding, including the Local Control and Accountability Plan, or LCAP, and also the federal version, the LCFF. Also another acronym for, again, to do with funding. The district and all other districts have different amounts that they get under these programs. And yes, it's complicated. But maybe one thing to keep in mind when we're looking at funding is also remembering that the Local Control and Accountability Plan is driven by goals. So another consideration might be, if we're looking at increasing funding, maybe also considering what kinds of goals we have in place and if those need to be changed at all. Just something to keep in mind when we're looking at funding.
Thank you. Okay, changing gears again. Communication can be a hot button issue. What are some of the things the district gets right on communication, and what can it do to communicate more effectively with the community? So we'll start with Mr. Chopra.
I think our district does a great job. I've been a parent in the school district since 2018. I feel that the school has always been very transparent in communication. Again, there's always room for improvement, and I think we have to make sure that the stakeholders are involved. The parents, the teachers, the administration, they all have to work together to make sure the channel of communication always remains open and clear. And I'm sure there are going to be some instances, but what we learn from it and how we evaluate and make adjustments is more important.
Thank you. Mr. Catalano?
The district uses board docs to manage its website, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. Each agenda item has an associated document. It's user-friendly. It's for someone who's worked with a lot of boards. I've never seen something that's as accessible as that. That said, I'd never looked at it before I got involved in this. So I don't know how, I guess it would be nicer if somehow the district was more accessible to people, but I don't think that's the school board's fault. I think the school board is as open and as transparent and as user-friendly as it can be, and I think it's our problem that people aren't more attuned to what's going on.
Thank you. Ms. Minigini?
One of the things with communication, there's expressive, right? How we express ourselves. There's also receptive. And I find that what we receive is not necessarily as expertly done as how we express ourselves. So sometimes listening is a bigger part of communication than we frequently realize. I would say one way that the district could look at improving communication is also to improve how we listen to the community. These types of meetings are great because it also allows for the asking of questions, which is, helpful to improve communication. But also another consideration is allowing opportunity for parental voice, and to allow more time for that, because parents are ultimately the ones in charge of their children's education, and that is something that we need to respect, and it's a big part of our communication.
Thank you. Ms. Schweppe.
Communication is important. I think the district does its best to keep up. The school sites also have various ways of communicating with parents and students. I think driving more people to our PTAs and PTOs is also a great way to encourage communication, get parents involved in knowing what's going on at the school, and helping volunteer at activities is a great way to increase their participation in school, and therefore really just being in the know. So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you. Ms. Riker.
Communication's broad, and so I'm thinking of it in terms of which stakeholders. So as a parent, parents use Parent Square, they get the school site newsletter. As a former staff member, I used what used to be School Loop, is now Canvas, and then the district is using email and website. So there's multiple different platforms, and I think the challenge always is to have people registering for those communications, opening the communications. It would be so fantastic to see more people at PTA meetings, Parents Club meetings, district board meetings. I do agree Board Docs is a fabulous tool, but I don't know that that many people know about it. So I think it's just broadening the reach, and for everyone who's in the room, sharing how important and helpful communication is for them.
Thank you. We've had a few questions about the category of book banning and curriculum, screening curriculum for all different perspectives. So if you'd please give your thoughts about what the process is now if a parent has an issue about a book that's in the schools. Now, you can distinguish between curriculum or in a library for free reading. So what is the process now, and do you think that that's covers the needs for the district? So we will start with Mr. Catalano.
I don't know what the process is now, but I think book banning is a horrible, horrible thing. And I think kids should be able to read whatever they want to read, however different it is.
Thank you. Ms. Minigini?
Whether we're looking at classes or we're looking at books, ultimately our responsibility is to ensure that these classes, these materials are age appropriate and that they're aligned with parental values. There are a lot of topics out there, things like gender identity and racism, which are important to discuss. But I think that the way that these are taught and books, etc., it needs to be transparent and involve input, again, from parents. Support curricula that fosters critical thinking without pushing ideological agendas, to explore diverse perspectives with a balanced educational framework. And so ultimately the goal is to help our students. One of the big goals is making sure that they're going to be ready to transfer to a good university or maybe a vocational program. Our focus needs to be on that. And I believe all politics should be kept out of education.
Thank you. Ms. Schweppe?
I think book banning is awful. I think high school's the perfect time for students to be exploring our world and the world around them. I think it's really important that we teach students to read for bias and to be able to evaluate text for its truthfulness, and that they have the skills to be identifying trusted resources in what they read. So I think high school students are the perfect age to make those decisions for themselves.
Thank you. Ms. Riker?
I think it's ironic, this question, while we sit here in this beautiful library together and none of us are reading a book. We're here talking about ideas. We're talking about how can we make the lives better for our students. Our district is transforming our libraries into learning centers, and our librarians are educators. The library is the perfect place to bring in new ideas. It's for students to access information, and they're surrounded by skilled educators who can safely help them engage in meaningful dialogue. I think it's really critical that we don't put boundaries on that for our children, and that we trust that they are at a place where they're open to that, and they're there to learn.
Thank you. And Mr. Chopra.
So our job is to educate our children and prepare them for the future. And as we all know, this world is becoming a rather small place. So we want to provide them with as much knowledge as we possibly can. And I know our district does an excellent job. Our curriculum follows the state laws. Our curriculum follows what's defined by the education board. Our books that are brought into the schools are to expand the kids' knowledge, and I think our district has done a great job through the librarians to make sure that the wealth of knowledge remains there. So there's no room for book banning in our district, and I believe that our district has done an excellent job in educating our kids.
Thank you. What will you do to support all students' feeling of being welcome in our schools, students of color, LGBTQ plus students, students with disabilities, and others? So we'll start this one with Ms. Minigini.
I think it's crucial that we do our best to make all students feel welcome. And I believe that diversity and inclusion are vital to any school environment. And it's important to ensure that these initiatives support all students equally, and that's an important point. I support efforts that promote respectful dialogue and protect the rights of every student, including, of course, creating that welcoming environment where students do not feel marginalized. But I emphasize that these policies have to remain transparent and ensure parental involvement in all aspects of student development. And a balanced approach is really going to be key here to create harmony and equity across the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Schweppe?
I think the best way to support all students is by continuous education around the DIB and having strong clubs on campus that gives a place for every student to belong, finding their community that they can connect to, and that the district continue to support those various clubs and provide additional training around being kind and being kind to others.
Thank you. Mr. Catalano?
I think it's all about the teachers, so that's where the focus should be, not at the school board. So I think the board needs to ensure whatever the hiring process is for teachers, that this is an important aspect of hiring. I don't know if, I assume department chairs have some role in that. I don't know who else I don't know how teachers are hired, but that's the place to make sure that we're getting people who are sensitive to this.
Thank you. Mr. Chopra?
So our data has shown over and over again that if the kids have a sense of belongingness, they're always going to excel in their academic excellence, right? So we need to continue to make sure that we are creating a safe space, a place of belongingness for each and every one of our students, regardless of any factor. And I know I've been told that for our LGBTQ group, our district held a prom night, special prom night for them. There's a movie night that's planned. So I know our district is taking all the positive steps. There's a lot of work to be done there, and I think we as a whole community need to come together and be very open-minded and be very respectful to every student and every student's background, and just continue to provide that safe and safe and secure environment for our kids.
Thank you. And Ms. Riker?
The district has prioritized DEIB for a long time. Not only is it a resource and an effort, but it's a lens through which all decisions are made. It's curriculum, it's communication, it's opportunities for students at school. I just thought I'd touch on a few things because everyone's had such great answers. Our leadership teachers are fabulous. They really encourage and support communication across different affinity groups. The district and our parent clubs support funding of cultural affinity groups to support students finding their own sense of community. I had the luxury of joining the BSU Summit just a few weeks ago. The district prioritized funding a day of community for Black African American students to come together, and I was lucky enough to take part in that day. So I think continuing to prioritize those resources to those supports is really important.
Thank you. Now, we would be remiss not to mention staff, faculty and staff. So from your point of view, is teacher and staff morale in good shape, or could the district make improvements in employee job satisfaction? So we will start with Ms. Schweppe.
I think in the days of teacher shortages within California, it's imperative that we maintain a happy staff. I think you do that through professional development, a sense of belonging, providing preparation periods for teachers, as well as encouraging teacher and staff integration so that all of those who work on campus feel like they're one team. And that's how you keep the morale up within our schools. And that's where we need to find success to make our teachers happy, who will then deliver that happiness down the line.
Thank you. Mr. Catalano?
I agree with what Stacy said. I don't know whether they're happy or not, but I thought that Stacy had good points. The only, and it's a small point that I have, and it's not that important, but going through all the documents on the website, I've seen the forms and the stuff teachers need to do to propose new classes, and it seems like there's a lot of bureaucracy there and a lot of other things that teachers have to do. So I'm wondering if some of that can be streamlined, but I don't think it's. I think Stacy's bigger points are more important than that small point.
Thank you. Ms. Riker?
Recruiting, developing, and retaining great staff is one of our core LCAP goals. It's really critical that we find great staff and that we make sure that they feel like this is their destination district and they want to stay. Providing collaborative time for them, providing mentorship and ongoing training for them is really paramount. We have a really strong relationship with our unions, and we're really fortunate that our staff are happy, and we do prioritize them. I think someone mentioned a significant portion of our budget goes to the staff. The teachers are the secret sauce. We can have all the curriculum that we want in the world, but having great people to deliver it is really what makes our district special.
Thank you. Ms. Minigini?
Retaining staff is frequently a challenge, and I think within our district, of course, focusing on creating an inclusive environment for students, but also for teachers, an environment that values professional growth, offers interesting professional development. A lot of times, professional development, could be slightly more interesting. However, I will just say that PD is going to be very important. Professional development opportunities, also recognition. A lot of times, that is something that is not always provided. Ensuring that teachers are recognized for their accomplishments with students, and just focusing on creating strong support systems. Again, going back to the question about communication, that's valid here as well to retain staff, ensuring open communication channels between teachers and administration to ensure that concerns are addressed promptly and not too late.
Thank you. And Mr. Chopra?
I have an immense respect for teachers. My kids have gone through the elementary school, they've gone through the middle school, and now my daughter's in high school, and I think they tell me, I mean, every day how wonderful their teachers are, and I've had personal sort of conversations with them over these years. At the end of the day, there's no student without a teacher, right? I mean, that is it. And I know that our district recognizes that. Our district has always been historically one of the high-paying districts for the teachers. Our district has had a great relationship with the union. And I also know that our district continues to, one of their LCAP goal is high quality staffing, right? So our district continues to expand the pool to add more diversity and more high quality teachers into our district.
Thank you very much. Now, I'm afraid our time for the question and answer part of the program is complete. So thank you all for your questions, and thank you for your very insightful answers. I appreciate that. So now we'll move on to closing statements. Each candidate will now present a 1.5-minute closing statement, and we will begin in the reverse order of the opening statements. So we'll begin with Mr. Chopra.
So in closing, I want to thank everybody who made this event happen. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for all of us to have this conversation. I also want to take a moment to commend our district for their excellent work they've done, navigating through our financial challenges. But it's only going to get increasingly difficult given our continued inadequate funding, inflation, and our ongoing structural deficit. I understand the school funding is complex, and it's easy to get lost in the weeds or get stuck in that complexity. But with my accounting career and my experience working with the Lafayette School District and Alpi, I've been in the weeds. I'm familiar with the complexities, and I'm ready to dive in and tackle the issue. I also recognize that our district's demographics are becoming increasingly diverse, not only from race and ethnicity perspective, but with a growing population of vulnerable and historically marginalized students. My goal is to advocate for every student, regardless of their school, their status, their religion, race, gender, or any other factor. I actually draw on my own experience for their advocacy. As an immigrant from India, I arrived in this country at the age of 18 as an outsider. My journey started in Central Valley to attend Cal State Fresno. From that experience, I learned the challenges of trying to fit in, and I understand the importance of feeling safe and included. And blending in and being perceived as, I learned that being perceived normal was the only way to feel safe. Maybe it was okay for me, but it's not okay for my children, my neighbor's children, or any children in our district. So I want to work to, provide that champion or that voice to each student in our school district.
Thank you very much. Ms. Schweppe?
Thank you, Las Trompas Creek Council of PTAs, League of Women Voters, and the AAUW for putting on tonight's forum. Thank you, audience, for attending. We appreciate your sitting here for the last almost hour and a half, paying attention to what we have to say. I would like to enthusiastically embrace new initiatives and foster inclusivity. I appreciate that we, as a board, have an impact on all students within our community, and I'd like to be a positive impact on our children. I'd like to share with you a few of my endorsements. I've been endorsed by the entire Walnut Creek City Council, members of the Walnut Creek School Board, Moraga Town Council members, former AUHSD board members, and former mayors from the city of Orinda. I respectfully ask for your vote. Let's give Walnut Creek a voice at the table. I think it's important. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Catalano?
I think it's pretty interesting how similar we are substantively. Unlike the national election, I think we all pretty much agree on most of the stuff, especially the teachers and several of the other questions. I didn't see significant differences among any of us. So I'm going to try to get you to vote for me. I have to make my case. I would say, again, education and experience and attitude. Education and experience are on my website. Take a look. It's petercatalano.site. Email me if you have more. And more important than any of that stuff, I think, is collegial attitude, wanting to work with a group, wanting to interact and solve problems with other people.
Thank you very much. Ms. Riker.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying here tonight. You're all here because you care about our public education. You care about our community, ultimately. Thank you to all of our hosts. Thank you to our hosts for advocating for public education. I feel like I'm an advocate for the student voice. I feel like I'm an advocate for the staff member, having been one. I'm an advocate for the parent experience. I am one. It's really an exciting time in our district. It's an exciting time in our education. And even though my last child is graduating, I feel like this education has been such a tremendous gift. It's a legacy that I want to leave for families that come after me. Student-centered decision-making is at the core of my governance. And I think that's really important as a board member. I am the incumbent board member. I have been spending 15 months training and preparing and doing this job. I do it with a passion. It's an unpaid position. I do it because I love it. I walk on campuses. Staff know me. Students know me. I'm relatable and I'm accessible. And I look forward to hopefully continuing to serve our community.
Thank you very much. Ms. Minigini.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to share why I'm running for the Acalanes Union High School Board. And thank you to everyone for being here and also for setting up this event. As I think I've conveyed, I am a strong advocate for parental rights, school choice, and protecting Title IX to ensure fairness in the schools, in sports, and female spaces. I believe in creating safe environments for all students while supporting teacher accountability and transparency in our schools. As a community member, I understand the challenges that we face, and I will work tirelessly for fiscal responsibility, quality education, and a balanced approach that puts students first. I'm committed to ensuring every student in our district receives the best education possible without political interference. Together, we can create schools that reflect our shared values and provide a bright future for our students. I ask for your vote to help make that vision a reality, and I will be honored to have your vote. My website is electsybil.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you, panel. I appreciate your attention and dedication to the students and families of the district. So I apologize to those in the audience whose question I did not ask. There were too many questions for the time that we had today. Perhaps you're able to stay after the forum to ask your question if the candidates are able to stay and mingle for a short while. That might be helpful. And I want to thank our co-sponsor, the Las Trampas Creek Council of PTAs, and for being our partner in this forum with the League of Women Voters of Diablo Valley. And I want to thank you, our audience, for engaging in the democratic process with your respectful attention and thoughtful questions. Be sure to vote on or before Tuesday, November 5. Let's give a warm round of applause to the candidates who are running for the Acalanes Union High School District Governing Board. Thank you very much.